So as you know, Easter is fastly approaching, and oftentimes on Easter, we have a few more new people than normal. And so today on Practical Church Planting, we're going to give you 6 ways for you to invite your Easter guests back.
Welcome back to Practical Church Planting, where in 15 minutes or less, we'll give you practical tips, advice, and encouragement to help you plant and grow healthy churches. My name is Brian Androsian, and joining me is Dylan Dodson, and today we're talking about 6 ways to invite Easter guests back.
Yeah, so Easter is like in a week or two.
It's coming.
It's coming quick, which
Hopefully
likely means, so hopefully plan for it, but likely means you're going to have some first-time guests.
Sure.
Even if you never have first-time guests, you're likely to have at least 1 or 2, probably.
Yeah.
At this service. And so the hope and the plan and the desire is probably that you have for them to come back. But just hoping they're going to come back probably isn't enough. And so we want to give you some things to think about of how to actually invite the people that are new on Easter back to your church. So here's number 1. And this may seem obvious, but I think sometimes we don't do the obvious things because we assume people know them. Mm-hmm. And it's not like people don't want to do things or in other cases maybe serve or give or whatever. We just haven't said anything. So here's the first one, that you should actually invite them back from stage. You don't want to single new people out. And we talk about this in previous episodes. Like, you should be prepared for new people every week.
Yeah.
So it's not like raise your hand if you're new or whatever, but you should say, hey, if you're new here, we're excited that you're here. At some point in your service, when you do your announcements at the end of the service, but I would, even if you do it in your announcements, I would also say this at the end of the service for Easter, but just say, we would love to have you come back, to like let them know that you want them to come back. And again, I think sometimes we don't do it as obvious because we just assume it. And it's like, well, if they like it, they come back, they'll come back. And if they don't like it, they won't. But if you have people that haven't been a part of a church or have gone to a church service in years or maybe ever, like they don't know that people, I mean, literally, they don't know that people go every Sunday. Like they don't know what you're supposed to do. And oftentimes if you give people a next step, they'll take it. But if they don't know what it is, they won't.
Yeah. And the good thing about doing this is it allows you to kind of talk about the next Sunday. In other words, your church may have different times for Easter or may kind of do things a little bit differently for Easter Sunday. Or even if you don't, it's letting them know that, hey, next week is going to be at this time or this whatever.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's kind of reminding them that, hey, we're meeting next Sunday, and next Sunday may be a little bit different or maybe the exact same, but it gives you a chance to talk about it and kind of takes a little bit of that mystery out for them.
So I would just say, again, from stage, before the service is over, just say, hey, thank you so much for coming. If you're new, we'd love for you to come back.
Yeah.
And here's step number 2, or tip number 2, you can do with tip number 1 at the same time. It's got to get 2 for 1 there.
1, 2.
And another way to invite people back and to give them entry to come back is to mention your next series. So if you're doing an Easter standalone thing, or even if Easter is a part of the first week of a new series, or however it is, just tell people, hey, come back. So in our case, we're doing Easter, it's its own theme this year, and then we're doing a series called Life Over Death, which is based off the bottom line for our Easter message.
Yeah.
So it'll be a really good transition for us. But just say, hey, we'd love to have you back next week. We're starting a series, or we're continuing a series, or we're looking at X, whatever it is, but actually mention what it is and say it in a way that'd be like, oh, that would interest people to want to come back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think this one, you could kind of, it's kind of a get, or I don't know, it seems like kind of a given, but I don't think many people actually do it.
Right.
It's kind of just a way to, I don't know, tease them, a way of telling them this is what's coming up, because not every Sunday is going to, like we said, not every Sunday is going to be like Easter. And so you don't want them to assume that, if you're not, that next week we're maybe continuing the story or what happens next after this, or, if they're unfamiliar with church, it's just letting them know this is what to expect when you come back.
Right. And again, we all know that Easter is not like following Jesus is a lifetime thing. It's not like a one-time,
right,
I believe in Jesus, do whatever. People don't know that, especially if they're new. Mm-hmm. And so telling them, hey, here's what's coming next week. Here's what we're going to talk about. Here's why. Especially if they had a good experience, and if they actually came to church like, oh, this is interesting, I might want to come back, letting them know what's happening so they don't feel so out of the loop or so nervous or insecure as you probably would feel as a new person. But inviting them back, actually saying we'd love to have you back, and telling them what to expect, I think will make it more likely for some of them to return.
Yeah, and it kind of shows the that you put an importance on them coming back each week. That It's not that we're glad you're here for Easter, but it's not really okay to wait until next Easter to come back.
Right.
But that we want you, and we kind of expect you to start coming back, because this isn't Christianity isn't a one-time thing.
Right. And I think it shows too that you were expecting them.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, they expected people like me. Like they're actually recognizing that, because a lot, especially people if they're new and they haven't been in church forever, they probably think they're the only one.
True.
That everybody knows each other. Everyone has been here. No, we don't know that that's not the case, but they don't know that. So inviting them back, I think, helps put them at ease to be like, oh, okay, like I'm not the only new person here. There's more to it. This is interesting. So
Yeah.
number 1, invite them back from stage. Number 2, mention the next series. Number 3, and we'll be doing all of these in this episode on our Easter Sunday for what it's worth.
Yeah.
But even helping with number 2 is that you can create like an invite card for your next series. Now, this is more so if Easter is its own thing. But like for us, we've been doing 1 Corinthians all year. Then we're doing Easter as its own series, and then we're doing a 4-week series after Easter, then going back into 1 Corinthians. So we're doing a series called Life Over Death, excuse me.
Yep.
And so as people are leaving on Sunday, we are going to print out like invite cards, not the business kind, but a little bit bigger. I don't know, Brian, you make them. You can tell us what they look like.
Something like that.
And it's going to say the title of the series, Life Over Death, and then it's going to have each of the 4 weeks, the titles of the series and the dates. So they know exactly what we're talking about. And they can say, even if they're like, well, I don't like all of these, but that topic seems really interesting to me. So I'll come back to that one.
Yeah.
At least it's guaranteed that they're even planning on coming back to something.
Yeah.
So not only saying here's what this next series is, but giving them something in their hand to remind them as they leave. Maybe they put it on their fridge, maybe they leave it in their car and they see it on Monday morning. But giving them something that invites them back, I think is really helpful as well.
Yeah, like you said, a possibility is they'll just leave it in their car and see it on Monday morning. Because one thing we don't want to be is, naive and think that everyone's going to stick it on their fridge and they're going to put it on their calendar.
Right.
They're going to make sure they come back. But really all it is it's hoping that they set it down and that sometime during the week it catches their glance and they remember, oh yeah, I kind of liked that Sunday. Maybe I'll go back this Sunday.
Right. And we did this too for Christmas as well. Now, at Christmas time, we were, it was in December and January, we were starting our masterclass series, 1 Corinthians. So it was really long. So of course we didn't print the dates on them.
Right.
But we had an invite saying, this is the series, this is what it's called. Here's the time, our service times again, social media, just how people can get connected. And so they bring it with them. And again, it just lets people know, oh, you were expecting them. And if they want to come back, it gives them an idea of what they might be getting themselves into.
Right.
So number 3, actually print out invite cards and hand them out to people as they're leaving your auditorium. I would not put these on your Connect table or the equivalent of expecting people to get them, because they won't. If they're coming, people aren't going to say, no, don't give that to me, especially if you mention it from stage. I would not ever do any sort of handout at the end of the service as people are leaving if you don't mention it, because people don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But if you say, hey, we'd love to have you come back. Here's our next series. And as you leave today, we're just going to hand out, everyone's just going to get, having someone hand it out as they leave. I would not walk up to people and give it to them. I would not do anything. But if there's doors to your auditorium or sanctuary, whatever it is, just have someone stand there and just handing them out to people.
Yep. Give it to everybody.
Inviting people back. So that's number 3. Number 4 is this, that you should not overemphasize Easter Sunday. And what we mean by that is, yes, it's a big Sunday. Yes, there's more people than normal, probably. Yes, you're probably doing some extra things that you don't normally do, potentially. And it's great. And I think people might even expect that, but I wouldn't say stuff like, this Sunday was so great. It's the best thing ever. Even in your social media, like leading up to it, like it's okay to be excited about it. But I wouldn't overemphasize it too much, because then you'll be like, oh, this is great. And then you will almost apologize. Well, next week, we're not going to have this, or we're not going to do this. And or it's going to go back. It's okay that it's a little different. And I think if you draw attention and make it seem like this is the best Sunday ever, people are going to be like, well, if this is it? If this is it's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine, as a little tangent here, when people call Easter the Super Bowl of church Sundays. And I'm like, it's important, but it's not like Jesus is alive every day. And I get it. I get Easter. It's a big celebratory thing, and I get it. But I think we can overemphasize it too much, where it makes it seem like we get frustrated when people only come on Christmas and Easter, but then we act like Christmas and Easter are only the really important days of the year.
Yeah, yes, you're going to get most likely some unbelievers and people who don't normally come, but if your Easter is so much different than every other week, then even if they do come back, it's like you don't want it to be a completely different church.
Yep. And again, you will do different stuff. Like we're doing stuff that we don't normally do. Not like we're not spending tons of money, but there's going to be a few different things.
Yeah.
But I think that's okay, and not being like, well, next week, it doesn't happen next week. And if they're a new person, they don't know anyway. They probably aren't even remembering what the service was like before.
Yeah.
And so it's okay to have extra stuff. I would encourage you to have some extra stuff, but don't apologize or point it out more than it needs to be pointed out. Otherwise, people will be like, well, if that's the best you got, why should I come back?
Yeah.
Especially if you kind of say it that way, or it comes across that way. So don't overemphasize Easter too much. I hope that makes some sense. Here's number 5, that you should have a follow-up plan for first-time guests. Now, if you want more information about this, you can go all the way back to episode 36.
Deep cut.
That's right. We talk about more about what this looks like. But you should have an idea. You should expect there to be new people, even if there's not new people. And we've talked about this in other episodes, that you should always expect it so there's a culture of it, so people know if they do invite their friends that there'll be something for them. But what are you going to do? How are you going to follow up? And even if you don't have a process, maybe this Easter is a good time to try to find one.
Yes.
Or just be super intentional. Like if somebody fills out a card, if you have a conversation with somebody, you need to have a plan, because especially if you get more people than you normally get, like you don't want to waste or squander that opportunity. So I would just say make sure you have some sort of plan. If you want more information about that, listen to episode 36.
Have a plan no matter what. And if you don't have one, start at Easter. Right. And then don't stop it week after Easter. But keep it going.
And I think, too, the hard thing about the plan is, like, well, we feel like if we don't have the perfect plan, we do nothing. But the best way to come up with a plan is to try it for a few weeks and tweak it as you go.
And honestly, following up, and even if it's not in the best way and it's not the most consistent, something is better than nothing. So just start something.
And a lot of people probably are expecting that, so don't feel bad. Whatever that looks like for you, just have a plan. Listen to episode 36 if you want some specifics on that. And then number 6, this is also something that we do every single week. And you can go to episode 15 if you want the specifics of it. And this is somewhat determinative of your space, but that is give people a tour.
Yep.
Give people a tour. This is something that we do every week. And the nice thing about a tour is, especially if you're at a church, a newer church, a church plant where you maybe not have a lot of new people every week, if you have like some churches do like a new guest lunch or a new thing every single week, and it's like, it can be particularly awkward if nobody shows up or if one person shows up. The nice thing about a tour is that if nobody shows up, it doesn't matter. And if only one person shows up, it's still not awkward because you're not like stuck in a room.
Yep.
So what we do, and you can listen to episode 15 if you want more information on it, is we have someone who wears a captain's hat. We say it at the end of service, every service, that we've got, hey, if you're new here, you can check out the Connect table, the Connect card thing that we have. Even if you don't fill out a Connect card, we still encourage you to do it. And basically it takes about 5 minutes, and we just walk them 5 or 10 minutes, walk them. It's really, if they have a lot of questions, it takes longer, but we tell them it's only 5 minutes because that is the plan unless they want it to go longer than that. And we walk them through our space. Now we have a pretty tight space, so it's not huge, so it's easy to do. If you're in a school or something, you could probably think of a way to do it.
Yep.
But give them a tour, because it's a non-threatening way to have some fun and to learn some more about your church. Because the thing is, somebody came, they're probably nervous, they don't know what to expect, and showing them around to places that even if they'll never go to those places, like let's say they don't have kids, but you show them the kids area, or you it's just kind of gives them some familiarity of what's going on, lets them see this place is pretty normal, and allows them to ask questions that they probably wouldn't ask if they weren't given an opportunity. Yeah,
it kind of allows them to let their guard down sometimes for a new person, especially if they're aren't with, or if they weren't invited, so if they aren't with someone who goes, it can be intimidating going to a Connect table where someone's just standing there waiting for them. They know that they're going to be asked if they're going to come back or give their information or something. But this is kind of a non-threatening way to send them to for us it's to the Connect table anyways, but send them to that same place, but not expecting anything from them, and it's just to give them something essentially. And it's a way for conversations to start. And by the time the tour's done, it's way more comfortable to talk about that Connect card. It's way more comfortable to actually get their information, but it's more of a non-threatening way and just giving them information instead of just asking for
And again, go to episode 15 for more information, but we would just say for this purposes, make sure that the person who gives it is fun and engaging, not like boring and stiff and doesn't want to be there.
And not someone who wants to give an hour's worth of information.
Right. It's got to be concise. So give them a tour, though. They're already there. They likely will stay if they enjoyed it at all, and it's a way for them to let their guard down and meet you a little bit more. Yeah. So here, those are 6 ways, again, that you can invite people that came to your Easter service back. Again, number 1, invite them back from stage. Don't assume it, actually say it. Number 2, mention what your next series is going to be so they know what's coming up. Number 3, actually create invites, print them out, and hand them out to people for your next series as a way to invite them back. You can even include social media, your website, stuff on there as well. Number 4, don't overemphasize Easter Sunday. Yes, there's probably going to be some things different about it, but don't act like it's the best thing ever. Otherwise, people will be like, well, what do you do? What do you got now? Right. Number 5, have a follow-up plan. And number 6, give a tour if your space allows. It's a fun thing to do. So thanks for listening today on Practical Church Planting. As always, practicalplanting.com/questions if you have something you want us to talk about in a future episode. And until next time, we'll see you on Practical Church Planting. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Practical Church Planting. Whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or Practical Planting, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, make sure you like or subscribe or do whatever it's telling you to do or should do on that platform.
And hey, if you are so tired of looking at our ugly faces, but you're not tired of listening to our beautiful voices, then you can find our podcast if you just search Practical Church Planning on iTunes or Google Play. Make sure not to just find it, not just to listen, but to subscribe.
Make sure you subscribe. Brian, tell them to subscribe.
Subscribe.
See you next time.